Hello StarCraft fans, this is Falcon Paladin coming to you with yet another Daily Legacy of the Void upload. This is a game between MeatHammer and VampyWorm on Orbital Shipyard. In the bottom left of Orbital Shipyard, we have the red Terran player. It is MeatHammer. And in the top right of Orbital Shipyard, we have the blue Protoss player representing Team Ascension. It is VampyWorm. So PvT on Orbital Shipyard, a very classic matchup on a pretty classic map. Pretty excited to bring this to you. Looks like the Terran player is choosing to wall off at the ramp. That is entirely due to Adepts. Prior to Adepts, you would see Terran players sometimes build their buildings close to home, close to the command center here, instead of walling off against Protoss, just because you could put a bunker up and things were good. But Adepts coming up and killing your stuff is a very real threat right now for Terran, and so most of them will choose to wall off here in order to disallow those Adepts from getting up the ramp and ruining their day. Gas coming up here as well. The timing on that leads me to believe it is going to be a Reaper opening against the Protoss. Now, surprisingly enough, those aren't super effective, just because Protoss players who know what they're doing have the builds wherein they're able to get the Mothership Core out fairly quickly about the time the Reaper shows up. And the Mothership Core does spawn with enough energy due to a photon overcharge on two separate pylons. This pylon and this pylon, if she deems it necessary, and the Reaper just can't really handle that. It can't take the damage from the photon overcharge. It can't take damage from the Mothership Core. If he comes in here, he will die. He might get a couple probe kills, but it's really not worth it. So we'll have to see if MeatHammer is able to get this Reaper damage to the point where he feels happy about it, or if the Cybernetics Core finishes and the Mothership Core pops out in time to deny it. VampyWorm definitely knows what he's doing in this particular situation. So it is a Reaper expand here from MeatHammer, getting that command center in a fairly safe position here in Orbital Shipyard. There is this area you have to worry about with drops from Medivacs or Overlords, or specifically Warp Prisms in this case. Coming down into this area, you can't really see it coming unless you place some stuff up here. And kind of bouncing back and forth with the Warp Prism can be very annoying for these Terran players. We'll have to see how MeatHammer manages to handle that, because I have a feeling VampyWorm might be going for that just because it is so darn effective. Is there another? Yep, it looks like the probe is going for a second Nexus here. There it is. There's the expansion. Here at about 25 supply, 26 supply it looks like for Team Ascension's VampyWorm. And here comes the Reaper. We'll have to see how well he can do. The Warp Prism is, our Mothership Core is already out, but she's leaving. Where? And the Stalker. Oh, the Stalker came out to deal with this, but the Stalker actually missed. KD8 charge being thrown down, knocking the probes back. It does do 10 damage to the probes as well, and they do go back to the mining automatically, so it's not the most effective thing. Why are you attacking the Nexus? MeatHammer. Oh, MeatHammer throws out the wow and loses the Reaper after killing absolutely nothing whatsoever. I'm not sure if MeatHammer was impressed by the fact there was a Stalker out for VampyWorm or what, but this is actually kind of a surprising build here. Warp Gate research is on the way. And oh, it's the forward overcharge. Oh my goodness gracious. I didn't even see that pylon coming up. There it is, going after the SCVs, trying to kill Marines at the same time. Trying to kill this bunker. The Marines inside that bunker can kill that Mothership Core if she is not careful. And so she backs on out. Oh no, they got the Mothership Core, and now there's no vision for the pylons. The Stalker comes up to give it some vision there. MeatHammer very unhappy, throwing out an expletive there, saying trash against the Protoss player, and in the end, VampyWorm losing the Mothership Core pretty much put an end to that. So this is something I've seen once or twice on the channel, the forward pylon with the photon overcharge being used to break down a front door. I've seen it against Zerg and now against Terran. But MeatHammer did a great job against it. Vampy saying, coming from the one who lost their Reaper, yeah, these players do not like each other. Sometimes we have players who are very friendly, but nope. And MeatHammer throwing out that, yeah, I was dealing with your cheese at the time, and indeed he did. He dealt with it very, very well. Units lost tab shows 3 SCVs died in that attack, and the Reaper, Mothership Core, and a pylon died here for VampyWorm. So, I mean, nothing too crazy. 225 minerals each, 50 gas, and 100 minerals for VampyWorm. So, MeatHammer very, very, very upset at VampyWorm, just throwing out all sorts of curse words, saying it doesn't make any sense, how TOS is such a terrible race, blah, blah, blah. Now, I must admit, I do have my biases in this game, but you know what? It's just a game. There's no reason to get this mad about things. If you do find yourself in a situation where somebody cheeses you, it can be very easy to let the rage build in your heart. But as Yoda says, what is it? Anger leads to hatred. Hatred leads to suffering. Rage leads to the dark side. Oh man, I butchered that quote. That was so bad. Please let me know in the comments what I could do to improve on that, because I can't for the life of me remember what he says. Speaking of Star Wars, you can actually buy tickets to Star Wars now. I mean, I guess it's been for about a week, but it is still a fairly new thing. I do love the Star Wars franchise. I'm not as huge into Star Wars as some of my friends that I know. I mean, they would absolutely go see every single Star Wars movie in the theater 18 times as soon as it comes out. But for me, they're good, but none of them like really fit my rewatchability scale. I like New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Episode 1 is just really hard to watch, as is Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith? Oh my gosh, I can't remember anything right now. Episode 3 is actually fairly rewatchable. It's not bad. The acting is fairly good. Jar Jar Binks doesn't say anything in the whole movie, which is a definite bonus for it. But anyway, StarCraft is happening. Missile turret up is getting rid of that warp prism. And here comes some medevacs for reasons. Here we go. Pulling SCVs to try to deal with this attack. MeatHammer really doesn't want this to happen. Focusing down the warp prism. They almost get it. And the pickup. The pickup on the warp prism from that distance. That is something in this latest patch where the warp prism can pick stuff up from like way over here. If you're over here, please help me, warp prism. And she's like, oh, peace. But then she can pick you up. I'm not sure. I assume warp prism is a she, but anyway, can pick you up from a distance and get you out of there. So again, fairly well prepared was MeatHammer. I don't think he lost much. Again, lost a few more SCVs, so no big deal on his part. He is down 39 to 51 total workers. At third base is on the way for VampyWorm. Long distance mining happening for VampyWorm. You don't see that very often. And here comes another pylon. Marines on the way. Supply blocked is the Terran player. Unfortunately for him, Robotics Bay rather on the way, and a Twilight Council for VampyWorm. MeatHammer going for this fairly standard stuff. Marine, Marauder, and Medevac. Some Vikings in there at the same time. Combat Shield, +1 infantry. No Liberators and no Cyclones to be seen. Will the Terran fall prey to the did not make Legacy of the Void units and a Legacy of the Void game curse? Popularized by Falcon Paladin. I'm going to have to say it looks very possible at this point. I mean, I know we've seen Terran players lose, even though they did go for Liberators, even though they did go for Cyclones, but I just feel like they do better. They do better in this matchup against Protoss if they do. Taking a couple shots from that cannon is the medevac. A lot of shots, actually. Dropping a single Marine to die. Boosting around, but now the medevac has been seen. I really don't think there's anything doing on this attack. Probably should just get a scout off and run away. And indeed, that's what the medevac is doing. MeatHammer probably feeling more of that rage in his heart, saying, oh, my drop got scouted. I lost a Marine for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Does he know about this base here? He does not. You have to scout this out, man. You have to scan it or something. You have to recognize Protoss has been on a third base for a long time. Mr. MeatHammer. Observer here, even scouting everything out. There are some Widow Mines here in the army at the same time. Extended Thermal Lance on the way for the Colossus that are being warped in for VampyWorm. And again, Colossus, it's not so much, as these Marines come on in, try to do some stimming backwards, but Adepts just murder Marines. Yeah, they two-shot Marines, if you'll notice here, 25 damage versus Light, and Marines only have like 35 hit points, so that's definitely a two-shot. Warp Prism over here again for VampyWorm, trying to come in to find a way to attack. Nothing really defending here, warping in a ton of Adepts. And here they go, going after workers. MeatHammer losing SCVs at a rate that is probably fairly alarming. At this point, the SCVs finally get pulled. They run for their lives. Marines, not really the answer here. Widow Mine either. Boom, Marauders do fairly well, though. There goes an Adept, as she ends up dead there. Running back, just trying to kill as many workers as possible before this bio army wipes them off the face of the earth. And yes, all the Adepts are gone. But 14 SCVs have died at this point for MeatHammer. 46 to 65 is the worker discrepancy in favor of the Protoss player. Forward pylon being put down there. Warp Prism back here again, ready to warp some more stuff in. Missile turrets to prevent that from happening. And here come the Colossus. Now, Colossus haven't been nerfed by range in Legacy of the Void, but instead just in damage done. So we see here on the Thermal Lance, it's 13 damage times 2. Still has a range of 9, which is nice, but just not as good as they used to be. Not as like all-encompassingly destroying destroyers of worlds as they used to be. Still good. Still good against Marine heavy compositions for Terran. Still good against like Zergling Hydra compositions for Zerg. But just not the all-fired must make this unit to win unit that they used to be in Heart of the Swarm and Legacy and Wings of Liberty. So I think that's pretty much what Blizzard was intending to do. It didn't kill the Colossus. It's still here. It's still viable. It's just not as good as it used to be. And you'll notice that his VampyWorm here isn't making any more than just 3 here. You won't see 6, 7, 8 Colossus. You really want to have Adepts in there to absorb some damage, some Zealots at the same time, some Stalkers. And this really should be enough to deal with what MeatHammer is trying to do. There's a pretty good push. It's 165 to 160 total supply. MeatHammer doing a good job that way. Let's see here. Active forces. And let's see. Resource collection. There's our production. So forward pile, not much used for anything at this point. Warp Prism can still maybe land some stuff here. Missile turrets are pretty well placed, though, for MeatHammer. And there goes the gravitic boosters, trying to make the medevacs a little bit faster. MeatHammer saying, wow. Scanning the army. So hot, says MeatHammer. And, I mean, I don't know if he has really much room to talk. I don't see any Legacy of the Void units in his army. It's Marine Marauder, Widowmine. Is there a ghost in there? There is a ghost for the EMP. So this is basically a Heart of the Swarm match right now, except for the Adepts, which are so vital to the Protoss army. Here comes a Warp Prism coming back. She was over here, wasn't she? Yes. Yes, she was. Marine versus Zealot. Zealot wins that one every single day. +2 attack and then gets destroyed by the rest of that Bio Ball in revenge. To avenge the death of their Marine brother there. Viking count is getting fairly high at this point. There are 5 Vikings, 2 more on the way to deal with those Colossus. I think MeatHammer's going to wait for the Vikings to show up to attack up this ramp, which might just be a bad life choice overall. But here comes a pretty good concave here. The Terran army stimming forward. VampyWorm recognizing that was a bad idea, backing out. Backing up the ramp. The medevacs trying to heal through that massive stim that MeatHammer threw down. And here come the Vikings to save the day to help with those Colossus. Again, the Colossus are really going to be the difference here. There are no disruptors. Going to have to be Colossus to do that AoE damage. And here it is. 4, 5 Colossus actually just throwing down swaths of damage on top of all of these units. MeatHammer trying to kill the Stalkers in front, but look at the laser beams just cutting through everything. The Viking count was not high enough. I think they killed a single Colossus, but that was about it. The rest of the army is retreating for MeatHammer. It is 101 to 140 total supply. VampyWorm playing this very, very well. Marine in the middle of everything, actually getting some shots off before he gets burned alive and falls to the ground smoking. Trying to take a 4th base now, which is a little bit late, I think, MeatHammer. Maybe not the best timing to do that because these Stalkers are going to burn you down. +2 attack on the Stalkers right now. +3 is being researched at the same time. Command Center does fall to the ground, exploding debris being attacked. VampyWorm wants to attack up this side, not the other side. Vikings trying to get some shots off on those Colossus. The Stalkers trying to prevent that from happening. Warping in more and more Stalkers from that area. The high ground advantage does go to MeatHammer, but again, the Colossus just burning through all those Marines, all those Marauders. +2/+2 on the Marines and Marauders, but not +3/+3, which would be better. Vikings having a pretty good angle of attack here. Take down another Colossus. The Stalker Ball does not seem to be getting much smaller, though. Immortal on the front lines at the same time doing fairly well. All the Vikings are now completely gone, and that's it. Grats, says MeatHammer. Lol, says MeatHammer. Bringing SCVs into the grinder. VampyWorm saying, thanks for trying. All those SCVs died so very, very quickly. They actually did end up getting the Immortal, though. That was surprising. Still no GGs. Still no leaving the game. MeatHammer, again, super upset. This is every single game of HOTS ever played. What a terrible matchup, says MeatHammer. And that's going to be it. I really need this game to be over. Trying some stuff out, says VampyWorm. Why not Adepts, says MeatHammer. He did make Adepts. I want to see how Colossus are still, and Colossus are still pretty darn good. Units lost tab show 12 Adepts. There were 12 Adepts there for VampyWorm, so he did fairly well with it. But again, the end of game conversation here lasting a little bit longer. MeatHammer again, just super mad. The stutter step dance all the way up into the main here for VampyWorm. He's typing, he's attacking at the same time. Make Adepts, Zealots are dead. Once again, I feel like he did that. There were a few Zealots there. Yes, he did make 20 Zealots. There are still a few of them left. VampyWorm saying, don't tell me what to do when you lost and you had Widow Mines. Yep, Widow Mines are a pretty good unit at the same time. but not really enough to make a big difference in that final battle. Holy smokes, these guys are chatty Cathys. Procs the Widow Mines on your own units. They're not as good as Adepts, blah blah blah. You can win with only Adepts. I'm not kidding, we have seen that before. I'm not sure if it's still super viable, but he is telling the truth. They destroy all Terran bio. You lost, says Vampy. Please leave the game. Get good. A lot of BM from both of these players. Dang it, MeatHammer. Alright, well, we're going to let them talk as these stalkers warp in slowly. Alright, so this has been Falcon Paladin with yet another Daily Legacy of the Void upload. Thank you so much for watching today. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe. If you liked what you saw and what you heard today, you can also catch me on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, all at /FalconPaladin. And until next time, as always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the music to end the cast, and you take care of yourself.